This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carinante.
Welcome to the Yankees Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carinante. Will the Yankees trade for Marlins pitcher Edward Cabrera? No, he went somewhere else. They will not be doing that. We don't have to think about that rumor anymore. Hey, is the package enough? Are these legit rumors? I don't know. Maybe. They didn't trade for him. He went somewhere else. That's a player the Yankees will never have. For better or worse. There are pros and cons. We'll talk about it on the show, of course. This is why we have a podcast. We could talk about it. But no, it's a major risk, potentially high reward, and he's going to be a Cub now. He's not going to be a Yankee. So the are they going to do literally anything conversation has resurfaced. Thursday, January 8th. Once again, Sunday night, Joel Sherman wrote a column about how the Yankees offseason was finally waking up as they seriously pursued Cabrera and exchanged a second offer with Cody Bellinger. It's Thursday, January 8th. It's been 3.5 days. Cabrera is somewhere else. Whether you wanted him or not, he's somewhere else. The Yankees haven't traded for a starting pitcher and aren't far down the line in trading for any other starting pitcher, although they've still been connected to Mackenzie Gore and Freddie Peralta, basically by default, because those are the two people who are still top-end starting pitchers who are on the market. So, how far along are they? I don't know. I mean, they need a pitcher, and those are the two pitchers. So they're going to be connected to them until they stay or go. And the Bellinger situation, it kind of feels like we're further away than we were before Sunday. The Yankees offseason waking up. You got John Heyman 10 minutes ago putting out something saying the Yankees are more seriously considering Bo Bichette as the Bellinger negotiations drag and the gap remains. I don't buy that for 1 second. But it's certainly not a signal that things are drawing closer with Bellinger. As Heyman notes, the Yankees and Bellinger's camp have exchanged multiple proposals. Again, that's what you do when you care and when you want somebody. But yeah, I don't feel like the Yankees are closer to action Thursday afternoon than I did on Sunday evening when the column about how the Yankees were close to action came out. Feels like we took some steps back. It feels worse than before I learned about Cabrera and before I learned about the second Bellinger offer. And yeah, John Heyman says the Yankees were never close in this Cabrera trade. Again, Cabrera, pros, cons, and we'll talk about him. And we're not both unilaterally pro. We're not waving the flag. We don't want to make a move just to make a move. The question is, what moves are still on the board? And as many people have said, no reason to get concerned with the Yankees offseason until people start coming off the board who are actually targets, who are actually connected to the Yankees. Well, here's that. Cabrera was a target. Cabrera was connected to the Yankees. He's gone. Kyle Tucker's not. Bo Bichette, I don't believe is. Alex Bregman is not. So it's the road to improvement is tough to see. A bunch of trees collapsed in it from this point forward because it's Bellinger, like the comments are saying, a return to 2025. He certainly is. He was on the team and not much else. These starting pitchers that they haven't gone very far down the road on, or just a crazy blow it up trade. Nico Horner, Yankee, Jazz Chisholm traded, Randy Arozarena comes in. Starting pitcher you've never thought about comes in. Bullpen piece you've never heard of. I guess the Yankees could do, they could do 7 things by opening day, but what's more likely? That they do 7 things that haven't been rumored yet, or they do absolutely nothing? Or absolutely nothing plus Bellinger? Or they fold on Bellinger and give him a more expensive deal than they wanted to? And Thomas Carinante, welcome to the show. People, the most commonly asked question that I think people ask rhetorically and don't want the answer to, they ask it with a snooty tone. Of course. And that's, hey, the Yankees couldn't possibly. You really are insinuating that the Yankees offered Trent Grisham $22 million by accident? Come on. They wouldn't do that. And my response is that, yeah, I might be insinuating that. I just might be insinuating.
Michael Kay said it.
Yeah.
Joel Sherman said it. I think this offseason is really as bad as it looks. Like every year we're complaining. We'll admit it. We're complaining every year.
This is the worst I've ever seen, given Aaron Judge's age and the context.
Exactly.
And the fact that next season is not a guarantee to exist. That makes this the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah. Every year we have a problem with the pace of the offseason, with the Yankees' aggressiveness, with the roster fits in general, with their intention and their ability to get who they want regardless of the risk or the price. And that's all valid. Sometimes it's yelling into the void. Sometimes it's just wishing the behavior would change. And you can analyze it any way you want, right? This offseason, literally nothing has happened. They have not done anything of consequence. And the biggest thing that they did was ostensibly, accidentally bring somebody back for a lot more money than they should have. I like Trent Grisham a lot. I think Trent Grisham is a good baseball player. I also can understand that his 2025 season was an outlier, and then 4xing his salary for 2026, assuming that he's going to replicate or come close to replicating that production, is insanity. And the fact that you would take that gamble for a 4th-round draft pick is even more delusional. So if Michael Kay is saying that this more than likely was a mistake, if Joel Sherman is saying that this is more than likely a mistake, then I don't know how we don't believe that.
And there were some people out there, again, the last couple of days in the last week, as the Bellinger thing has become more of a slog, they've said, well, how angry would you be? Imagine if they hadn't addressed center field with Trent Grisham and they had to fill 2 outfield holes. Imagine how much angrier you'd be. And I can't get there because I wanted to address that center field hole with Jason Dominguez, with giving him a chance. I wanted Cody Bellinger and Jason Dominguez in left and center. And now I'm stuck trying to slide Jason Dominguez into left field, being dissatisfied if they lose Cody Bellinger with that option, having a 1-year solution in center field instead of anything long-term, or just throwing Jason Dominguez away, trading him as a part of a package for a pitcher, a lesser pitcher, because he's not really a centerpiece at this point, or just keeping him and watching him not develop and watching him languish. My options are so much worse. Imagine if they had to address 2 outfield spots now. They wouldn't. They would have addressed one with Jason Dominguez, and I would have felt intrigued by that instead of clogging up a spot with Trent. Very good player, not a $22 million player, and now they are preventing themselves from doing more this offseason because of $22 million that I swear, I know it doesn't sound logical, but I really think they spent it by accident. And then, Ryan McMahon's money at third base, which also it's $38 million total that are going towards 2 flawed players, and they're not the Yankees anymore, so they can't get over that mentally.
Exactly. And the fact that we keep hearing all these other things too, like Chris Kirshner was on Foul Territory the other day, and he reiterated that at the winter meetings, both Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone said that they like the Yankees roster a lot, as is, which is why they only spent $7.5 million to retain Tim Hill, Ryan Yarbrough, and Ahmed Rosario, and then kept Grisham to ensure themselves against what's happening right now, Bellinger lagging into January and now probably February. But so you look at, I guess the bigger point here, obviously Edward Cabrera goes to the Cubs.
Yeah.
The package includes the Cubs' number 1 prospect, Owen Casey, then the Cubs' number 11 prospect, and then a lottery ticket, which I think is, look, you're paying for cheap control of a starting pitcher. So regardless of how you look at it, that's the price. It's an overpay, in my opinion, because of Edward Cabrera's injury history and the fact that last year was his best year and it still wasn't like that great. It was totally fine, and he got knocked around by the best offenses. But look, neither here nor there. Cubs got their guy. That's who they wanted. They felt comfortable trading these other players, and that was that. For the Yankees equivalent, I don't know if you do, and I am not against them not doing this trade. I think it's actually smart they didn't do this trade. I think making this trade would have been, oh well, we got to do something at this point because we waited around too long. So I guess Edward Cabrera is available. So let's see what it'll take. And then you end up paying, this to me is Jason Dominguez plus 2 other prospects.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably the equivalent. And would I have been able to reconcile with that if it happened? Sure. But I wouldn't have wanted it to happen. The bigger point here is that now that Edward Cabrera is off the board, now that Mike Burrows is off the board, now that Shane Baz is off the board, instead of the Yankees, and this is just me spitballing because I actually don't know. You don't know if any of these rumors are true, right? We don't know if the Yankees are actually interested in Freddie Peralta. That could have been smoke for them to get a lighter deal on Edward Cabrera. Like, this is how all these reports reach the media. These teams leak these things to the writers run them, and then other teams are reading about them, and then they're wondering what's going on. So it could have been a leverage play. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. It's obviously smart strategy. But how about the alternative?
Mm-hmm.
If the Yankees really wanted Freddie Peralta, just for example, why are you going to wait around and see if another team makes a dumbass mistake? Like, and maybe they're not mistakes, right? Maybe they pan out. But the Orioles overpaid for Shane Baz based on his production. It just is what it is. The Astros overpaid for Mike Burrows, just underwent Tommy John surgery, had a nice start to his MLB career, but it's been abbreviated and he's coming off a reconstructive elbow procedure. So there's that. And then you have Edward Cabrera, who, yes, 3 years of team control, that's certainly attractive, has success in the major leagues. But again, it's stagnant, it's against lesser competition, and there's an injury history. So you look at someone like Freddie Peralta, and yeah, there's only 1 year attached to him, but he's a 2-time All-Star. He's been a consistent pitcher for the last 5-6 years who's been productive on a playoff contender, and he's going to get paid in free agency when the time comes. So if the Yankees were truly, truly interested in Freddie Peralta, I will never understand waiting out the market, because there is never a scenario where waiting out the market helps you. There never is. And I think that goes hand in hand with the free agent market too, right? Like, yeah, sometimes you overpay. It's money. It is what it is. You might set the market a little bit higher for everybody else, but at least in that regard, if you're the one overpaying, you're the one screwing everybody else over. The Yankees paying for a pitcher early on in the offseason and splurging, 2 top 5 prospects for Freddie Peralta, then screws up the rest of the market for everybody. So you're technically in a really good spot by doing that. Yeah, you might have gave up a little bit much, but now everybody else is in a bind trying to get what they want. And in terms of free agency, like, we see this all the time. The Bellinger situation, I know it's not fully in their control, but they play the waiting game. They say, here's an offer, go see what the market dictates, then come back to us. We'll see if we're interested. More times than not, they're probably not interested. But you look at someone like Kazuma Okamoto, who goes to the Blue Jays for 4 years and $60 million and is filling a need on the Blue Jays that is, I would say, a luxury. He's going to be maybe a super utility, maybe whatever. I think
they're still going to sign Kyle Tucker. Like,
exactly.
They're not done.
Exactly. So if they sign Kyle Tucker or Alex Bregman, then Okamoto shifts into a utility role. If they don't sign either of those guys, then he's the third baseman with flexibility to play first base in the corner outfield spots. Meanwhile, this entire time, the Yankees have needed a right-handed bat and a right-handed platoon option for Ryan McMahon at third base. Could have used the backup first baseman because of Ben Rice's situation and the fact that Paul Goldschmidt's likely gone, and corner outfield spots if Jason Dominguez's defense still doesn't improve. So the fact they didn't go out and get somebody at that price point and were more aggressive is crazy. And the fact that they continue to wait around for the trade market to dictate how much they're going to spend on their next target is just irresponsible. And the fact that they don't learn year in and year out, and they're more inclined to make these low risk, low reward plays by getting diamonds in the rough for, nothing prospects, is just not getting the franchise anywhere. And that's something that I don't know when they're going to learn or who's going to tell it to Brian Cashman in the front office, but we're watching it unfold, and now they have their hands tied and they cannot do anything, and they won't do anything at this point.
Edward Cabrera is such a funny one because the only reason we're talking about him at all or thinking about him is because of the way that things materialized on Sunday. We didn't write about Edward Cabrera all offseason. We didn't think about Edward Cabrera all offseason. At no point did I consider the Yankees interested or in his market. I thought he might get traded. I thought he might go to the Cubs, might go to the Giants. And then all of a sudden, you've got the Yankees interested. It's a standalone Athletic article. Chris Kirshner collaborated. You've got the Yankees insiders involved, national insiders. Once those people team up and start to peg only one destination, it feels like it's moving. You got Hubs with the package, and it feels light, and it's Dylan Lewis and Ben Hess, and that's 2 top 10 guys, and Dylan Lewis is on helium alert, and a lot of people believe in him. but at no point is that disqualifying. So like, I didn't want Edward Cabrera, wasn't thinking about him. And then all of a sudden I have to think about how there are a lot of risks. There's reportedly a partially torn UCL at the end of last season. Anytime you have an elbow sprain, it's a partial tear. And he's got one, and he didn't need surgery, but that makes the medicals portion of this very scary. So my immediate thought is, okay, terrible fastball, incredible changeup, medical trauma, expensive, presumably because of years of control. Got to a career high in innings last year, and it was 137. Joel Sherman pointed out he's got a 4.96 ERA in 9 or 10 starts last year against top 10 offenses. I think it's 9. So lot to not like. And then the Lewis Hess package comes out, and then I'm forced to go, well, that's like 35% lighter than I thought. Okay, that might be the exact cost, at which point I would be willing to give up on the wrist and just say, I know all of the red flags I just mentioned, and yet the acquisition cost is so reasonable that I'm down. I'm game. And you know what? I have to be game because it feels like it's happening. So like I have to I can say I don't like it. I can say I love it. But either way, I have to get used to it because it feels like it's happening. That's where it felt like we were at on Sunday. And then hit a wall and then disappeared.
Inexplicably too. Like no reason. Just done. No
more.
Come
in a matter of 3 days. The wall was so no reason that it just like, I don't know. I'm checking for the FBI. Like it had to be, it had to be medical evaluations. Did it not? Like the Yankees package was out there. Hubs said it. So you can't come after me. You come after Hubs. He said this is done as far as he's concerned, unless they see something they don't like in the medicals. And then all of a sudden it's not done. And then all of a sudden the Cubs are going down this road. And from what I was told yesterday, the medicals weren't a certainty there either. And we know that the Cubs spiked a Jesus Luzardo trade with the Marlins last year for the same reason. That was something that fell apart publicly. They were in talks and they decided, you know what, better not. Let's not do it. And he went to the Phillies and he had a great year with great medicals. But this is 2 years in a row of the Cubs looking at a Marlin with some maybe suspect history and deciding nay last year, yay this year. So it's the risk that they were willing to take, but then you get the package revealed, and then there's no point in even talking about this Yankees offer and what fell apart and what didn't, because the Cubs offered their number one prospect. So, hey, maybe the Yankees hit a medical wall. Maybe they didn't. Maybe the Cubs and the Yankees saw the same thing and the Cubs approved and the Yankees didn't. I don't know, but what I do know is that the Yankees offer came out and the Cubs offer got accepted and the Cubs offer was better. So presumably if the Yankees had really wanted Edward Cabrera, they would have had to pay a much higher price, one that I wouldn't have even been willing to entertain. So it leaves you struggling with Peralta and Gore and like, hey, how much do we really need a starter? We really do need a starter, but like, is it Mackenzie Gore? Is it Freddie Peralta? Or is it a lesser name we haven't thought about? Or is it Framber Valdez and Ranger Suarez for money? Or is it Zach Littell for less money? Ground ball rate doesn't look like a great match for Yankee Stadium, but like 180 innings of 3.5 ERA baseball and plenty of road games to make up for that, bad ground ball rate. He's also been good at Yankee Stadium in his career. I don't know. Sign me up. So the comment that says we're striving for mediocrity here. I think this is a really, really good rotation if everyone is healthy. Really good.
Yeah.
Top 5 in baseball, but everyone is not going to be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Already many people are not healthy. So it is admittedly, while we're going after the Yankees, tough to balance the reality that they need to beef up the rotation, but it is not their number one area of need. If you reset this offseason 100%, I want to spend on the bullpen before I spend on the rotation, and I want to spend on the lineup before I spend on the rotation. I would love a platoon partner, like a real shortstop, left and center field upgrades, like plenty of make me a bench. Like there are many things I want to do that I can't do. Now we're at the point though where rotation upgrade does feel like a need to have and something that they apparently want to do. Brian Cashman made it clear he wanted to do it.
Yeah,
there aren't many left, and this was not my preferred one. No one I thought about before Sunday. Didn't think about him for 1 second, and now I probably won't think about him again. He's in the NL Central, but the Yankees are scrambling here.
I think they would do a pitcher for the right price, and spoiler alert, it ain't going to be the right price for what they want, so it's not happening. They are right. They should rightfully believe in the group that they have. Yes, Rodon being out for the first month Yes, Garrett Cole probably not being in full force to return by June. Those are problems. But the Yankees have depth. We can laugh about the penny pinching spending early on, but I think Ryan Yarbrough is a really good addition to this team if he's healthy. The Yankees have proven that the one area of this roster that doesn't need a ton of attention is the rotation. So people getting mad that you missed out on Cabrera, people getting mad that the Mackenzie Gore talks aren't progressing, people getting mad that there's no traction on the Freddie Peralta front. It's like, if the Yankees are looking at a potential upgrade, and the famous phrase due diligence, Brian Cashman's out there doing his due diligence. Of course, he's calling these teams to see what's up in terms of the price for these players and in terms of maybe the timeline of when they're going to move them. So he knows what's going on, because I think the only way that the Yankees are making some sort of a pitching trade of this caliber is if they manage to trade some of their pitching for a right-handed bat. I don't know what that is. Heard Nico Horner on the Cubs.
I'm interested, but there's
very interested.
Jazz, McMahon. You got McMahon.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
I mean, maybe Horner plays shortstop, and Caballero and Cabrera are the two super utility players off the bench. Like, that's a possibility. I don't know. All I'm saying is that I don't think the Yankees pull the trade on a starting pitching deal pull the trade. Is that what I just said?
Pull the trade?
Yeah, pull the trade. I don't think the Yankees
commenters are like, pull the trade.
Pull the trade. This guy I don't think they pull the trigger on a starting pitching deal unless they have the framework of a deal to get a right-handed bat, or unless they know they're getting another right-handed bat to support whatever aspect of the roster there is that they want. I don't know if it's left field. I don't know if it's third base. I don't know. I don't know. We literally do not know. That's how quiet the offseason has been. So all I'm saying is take it with a grain of salt whenever they're connected to a player. It's Chris Kirschner put it very shrewdly. Brian Cashman's job is to call these teams and ask about players and see what other teams are interested. Oh, are the Red Sox interested? Okay, great. I got to get in here. I got to drive up the price. Or, hey, the Red Sox are interested. Now I'm interested in this player. Or, oh, okay, so that's the market for Shane Baz. All right, that's kind of crazy. I'm probably not going to call the Nationals now about Mackenzie Gore, because that's going to be a giant waste of time. It's all about gauging the market and understanding what's going on. So anytime there is a link to a player for the Yankees, as evidenced by last week when everybody got amped about Cabrera, they got amped about the second offer to Bellinger, they got amped about the Bo Bichette rumors, and then Yankees hot stove comes on Monday night before we went live, and Jack Curry was like, none of this is a thing. None of this is close. There's a gap with Bellinger. Cabrera is nowhere near it happening, and I don't believe. And he straight up said, "I don't believe the Bichette stuff.
Yeah,
there is no fit for Bo Bichette here." So everybody who, understandably, you get excited because your team is linked to somebody. You want that energy. You've been waiting 2 months for a legitimate move to happen. At this point, it's just you're going to be surprised by the next transaction. It is not going to be telegraphed, because there is no way the Yankees can operate in this current climate with everything out there on the table. Here's who's available. Here's the trade price. Here's the free agent price, whatever it is. The Yankees are not going to just pay the surface level. They're not paying the sticker price on Mackenzie Gore. They're not paying the sticker price on Cody Bellinger. They're going to be waiting for any of these deals to come down, or they're going to be waiting for something else to present itself so they can capitalize. And again, if they believe that this roster is good enough, then why do you think they are going to overextend themselves in a trade? There was also 5 other off seasons before this where they would have been better off overextending themselves. And I would argue this is not an off season to overextend yourself. The talent's not that great. I don't think it pushes this roster into another echelon in terms of supporting Aaron Judge. Like, yes, I could talk out of both sides of my mouth. It is incredibly frustrating that there is literally nothing going on this offseason as Aaron Judge enters what's, probably the back half of his career, or the back, 35% of his career, however much time he has left, we don't know. But at the same time, like, what are you going to do? Just get a bunch of players who don't fit the equation right now, or a bunch of overpriced players, or leverage your future for guys that aren't really going to move the needle for you? So And again, that's the Yankees' fault because there were 5 other offseason before this where they could have set the table and have been completely fine at this point. They would have still had the core intact. They would have had to make some moves at the margins to improve it. But the next move you see from this Yankees team is going to be one you never saw coming. That's my hot take.
I mean, I have to agree because look, you hit the nail on the head in terms of I don't love the options available this offseason. I certainly don't love the acquisition cost. The Shane Baz, Mike Burrows trades. Like, you're right. As soon as the Yankees saw that, they should have said, nuke this. I'm done. I'm not talking the starting pitching market. But they didn't stop because they still do want a starter. There was a comment earlier that said Peralta is the wrong target because of the acquisition cost. I hear you, and I know that you think, okay, super expensive in this market. You get a bona fide all-star versus somebody projectable in Cabrera. I just don't buy that it's going to be as expensive given that he is a rental. And someone also said they didn't want to do it without the extension. I'm fine doing it without the extension. I am fine renting. The rental price is never as high as you think it's going to be. The Corbin Burns price was Joey Ortiz and DL Hall. You look back at these rental prices and it's just not as exorbitant as you think it's going to be. So if it ends up being this painful package, then I'll come on the show and I'll say, you know what? Oops, never mind. Rising tide lifts all boats. Or whatever. That was crazy. And I guess they want to do it. That was crazy. But the 1-year acquisition, like,
they can also sign up to an extension. Like, why would you want to? The cost is going to be somewhat similar to these other deals, but again, you're getting a proven player. And yes, there are concerns. He's coming from a small market. He's pitching the NL Central. Like, that's all out there. We already know that. But wouldn't you rather have 1 year of Freddie Peralta than 3 years of Edward Cabrera or 2 years of Mackenzie Gore or 3 years of Mike Burrows? Do you even know who Mike Burrows is?
And as the comments keep noting, the Yankees have a ton of future rotation depth. LeGrande, Ben Hess, Elmer Rodriguez, Bryce Cunningham. I love all these dudes. These are all options. Cam Schlittler, Will Warren, Luis Gil, Clark Schmidt, Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, Max Fried. You don't have necessarily this massive gaping long-term hole where you're like, this rotation is screwed. But this year, you need a number 2. You need somebody you can believe in and rely on. And I would rather pay the price for 1 year of Peralta versus 3 years of Cabrera, especially now when I know the price of 3 years of Cabrera is. But this is all moot because I don't think the Yankees are doing it. So I'm saying they should do this over this. And the Yankees are telling me, no, Adam, neither of those are options. We're not doing either of those. And I'm saying, no, guys, but actually the acquisition cut. And they're like, no, stop. You don't have to justify it to us. We're not doing either of those things. Like, okay, fine. I don't think the Yankees are doing either of those things. So I'm going to drop it. And speaking of things they're not going to do, this Cody Bellinger situation, the article that just came out just before the show makes it even. There are like 7 strange things in this article. So we might as well basically live react to it. The Bellinger market is slowed to a crawl. I have no idea who's involved other than the Yankees. Yesterday, after the Cubs made the Edward Cabrera trade, Michael Cerami, who broke the Edward Cabrera trade, noted in an article that the Cubs are interested in Bellinger as the next portion of their plan. But the body of that article was basically like, me, I don't get it. I don't think it's likely to happen. They're probably going to spurge on Bregman or Bichette instead. Bellinger, not the best fit for me. But hey, Cubs say they're interested, so I got to write about it. So I came out of that article thinking, yeah, they're interested, but it doesn't tell me much other than they like the player. And they salary dumped Bellinger last year, so I don't think it's likely they bring him back. But the Cubs are interested. The Dodgers are interested in a reunion to an extent. The Mets Kyle Tucker stuff came out yesterday. Will Salmon has a recent history of connecting exactly one team to the player who they ultimately obtain, like 24 to 48 hours before it happens. I don't think the timeline on Tucker is that, but he connected the Mets to Tucker and again said that if they do pursue Tucker, it will be on a short-term deal. Don't expect a long-term offer. And I don't know what that says about the Mets and Tucker. Will Salmon did that with Jorge Polanco and the Mets. He did that with the Blue Jays and Okamoto. He's done it several times. So maybe he's saying they're moving closer to Tucker. Maybe he's not. Either way, he is saying the Mets prefer to do a short-term deal. I still don't come away from that article thinking that they're the team to throw money at Cody Bellinger and make certain that they just blow the Yankees offer out of the water. The Yankees have a line in the sand on Bellinger. And I haven't credited the Yankees much today or this offseason at all, but I think that is a totally fine way to approach Cody Bellinger. Really good player, makes this team better. Once you go over 5 years, it gets scary. If you have to go to 6 to get a deal done, then make sure you maintain future flexibility.
And what was the initial ask was 8 years for
the initial ask, according to John Boy yesterday, was 8 years. That is A, nuts, B, never going to happen, and C, does not sound to me like someone who loves the Yankees and is ready to come back, but is just playing out every avenue first. I don't know, man. Like, if that's what he wants, if that's the ask he's putting out there, he knew from the second he left the Yankees that there was no chance Brian Cashman would match that. So if your expectation is that far ahead of what the team you want to return to is going to stop at, right? The Yankees are going to think about 5. The Yankees are not going to think about 8. I believe that, as John Heyman said today, that the Yankees and Bellinger are exchanging figures because Bellinger does want to return and the Yankees do want him. I believe that he is happy to return. I don't believe that he desperately burns to return, because if he did, he wouldn't have come in with an 8-year ask, because that doesn't do anything other than piss the Yankees off.
Yeah,
that doesn't raise the Yankees offer to 7. That just makes the Yankees go, oh, so we're not serious. Okay, we're not playing in the same swimming pool. Cool. I still lean on the side of he will return, but I'm with the Yankees. 5 is fine. 5/150 is fine. You want to hang out in the Pete Alonso territory to prove a point, the Schwarber deal, fine. More than that, no thank you. No thank you at all. And they can move on. They can move on and they can try Jason Dominguez, although they'll probably be a worse team. This is the most annoying thing of all. This would be, with the free agent class and with the fact that we're fighting over Cody Bellinger and with the fact that we've got injuries and we have a bullpen I don't trust, this would be a perfect year to just sit back and say, I'm not going to pay as much attention to the Yankees this year. I can't do it. I can't live and die by this. I like the future. I like the farm. I like the young kids in the rotation. I don't like this team that much. Not nuke it, but reset. Jazz will walk. McMahon will be in a walk year next year. No Bellinger. Grisham will walk. And you can really start to bring in pieces that make a lot more sense. You could free up your budget. You can really restructure. But Aaron Judge is just another year older and another year closer to the end of this. Garrett Cole is 35, and 2027 might not happen. So that's why this offseason has been making me as angry as it has, because it would be a perfect opportunity to say, look, 2026 isn't the year. I get it. It's not the year. Don't do anything to hold yourselves down long term. You might be able to contend with what you have. You'll probably make the playoffs with what you have.
Yeah.
You're not in great shape. You're not in horrific shape. Don't tie yourself down. Reset, make 2027 the year. But 2027 might not happen. Aaron Judge is going to be another year older, maybe 2 if 2027 doesn't happen. And now we're stuck in a frustrating spot of trying to root for a Cody Bellinger marriage that feels imperfect. People keep selling us on what a great fit he was last year. He was. I loved the fit. It was very enjoyable. But for 7-8 years, like, people trying to sell Yankee fans on the fact that you can't afford to let him go. You can't afford to let this linger. They can afford to let it linger, but also because of the ticking clock on Judge, because of the ticking clock on the 2027 season, they can't afford to not be as competitive as they can be this year. And there aren't that many options left out there. And I don't buy Bo Bichette for a second. Jack Kirby said no interest. And the article that came out right before we went live said the Yankees are considering him more seriously as the Bellinger negotiations lag, and that Bo Bichette wants $300 million. So it's leverage all around. But if Bo Bichette wants $300 million, he's not getting it here. If Bo Bichette wants to lower that ask, he's still not getting it here. The Yankees would have to trade Jazz Chisholm. There are so many reasons he's not a fit for the Yankees, especially that would be such a massive pivot at this point in the offseason. Really feels like it's Bellinger or nobody for the Yankees, and Bellinger at the Yankees price. And I don't know who else hops in there. I don't know what the Cubs offer looks like. The Mets don't seem that interested, and I don't know what the Dodgers are looking to put together. So again, Sunday night to now, it feels like we were talking about so much momentum, and now we're talking about so much confusion, uncertainty, and distress, given the Trent Grisham money, the Bellinger hole, the rotation uncertainty, the bullpen going to be terrible, in my opinion, no matter what they do.
Not going to be good.
Forward.
Not going to be good at all, the bullpen. Camilo Doval for $6.1 million. So it's just, it's insanity. But yeah, I want to address a comment here. Bellinger did not suck for half of his career. Do I want Cody Bellinger for 8 years? No, I don't want anybody for 8 years unless it's Aaron Judge. Like, all these contracts are admittedly, for the most part, out of hand, except for the top 10 percentile players. Cody Bellinger was incredible from 2017 to 2020. Then he was bad in 2021 and 2022, and that's when he got DFA'd. Not DFA'd, he got non-tendered simply because his arbitration costs, because of his past success, rose to the 20 millions, and the Dodgers were like, we're not paying this. You're coming off a season where you just hit 200.
He popped his shoulder in the playoffs.
Yeah, he popped his shoulder out.
Yeah.
In the in that NLCS against the Braves after he hit like the most clutch home run of that postseason.
And it clearly affected. And yeah. I don't understand the comments either saying that is Cody Bellinger supposed to capitulate to whatever the Yankees think is a fair price? Absolutely not. Of course, you have a negotiation, but 8 years is not the kind of ask that is reasonable, and the market is telling him that.
Yeah. And look, I also think the other comments are right. 2027 doesn't have a good position player offering, and
no, it doesn't.
And this is Bellinger's last attempt to get paid. So, they're going to go, him and his representation are going to go in aggressively for any offer that they can get, especially there's a number of big market teams involved. So you're not going to undersell yourself. If the Blue Jays are interested, the Mets are interested, the Yankees are interested, the Cubs are now potentially interested. The Dodgers are on the outskirts, ready to pay if they can get the terms that they want, because now they can dictate the market with whatever they want because of their success. That also happens when you're good and you are an attractive destination. The Yankees don't really have that. The Yankees are fine. They are, in my opinion, more of a stressful destination than anywhere else, just given the fan base, the media, and the expectations that come with being a Yankee. Did Bellinger enjoy it? Sure. Does that mean he should give the Yankees a discount? Absolutely not. Was Bellinger good for the Yankees in 2025? Yes, he was. Does that mean the Yankees give him an 8-year offer? No. He's turning 30. The Yankees can't have however many players in their late 30s on this team in 4 or 5 years' time. You're going to have Judge, Bellinger, Max Fried, Garrett Cole will be off his contract. Giancarlo Stanton will be off his contract. Carlos Rodon might be right there. I don't know. But it's just not, it's not a formula. And again, this is partially the Yankees' fault. The Yankees trading for Giancarlo Stanton did a lot of this. The Yankees signing DJ LeMahieu and extending that deal for 2 extra years when they could have just had it at 4 years did all of this. The Yankees giving Max Fried 8 years when probably 6 or 7 was the move also did this. I don't think all of those moves were necessarily a problem, or like bad for the team, but they did hamstring the team in terms of what they're able to do on an annual basis with their financial constraints that they self-impose. So when you are, and it's uniquely annoying that the Yankees are always involved in this when a player is hitting free agency, always involved in this when they get a player for a year and then the market completely goes against what they're willing to do or what they're trying to do. And the fact that they just keep getting involved with Boras clients over these last couple of years, it's a really big pain in the ass. The Dodgers don't do business with him for good reason, because they're sick of it. They literally avoid Scott Boras clients, and the Yankees can't because they're not in a position to do so. So that's what you get.
I'm confused by the way that the discourse is going in the comment section. And I apologize if it's getting like hostile, but somebody should explain to me where the fracture is. Cody Bellinger's initial ask was reportedly 8 years, and it's fine, but it's definitely not the kind of ask that if you're the kind of guy who wants to be a Yankee that you go out with in the market. It's just true. If he was a guy who really wanted to be here, they could have come to terms on a more reasonable contract to begin with. But fine, it's his last opportunity to earn money. I understand entering the market with a big ask. And then the issue there is eventually you have to come down. I think the disconnect here is people are saying, why wouldn't he wait? He's just supposed to capitulate to what the Yankees want because they have a line in the sand. He doesn't have to do anything that he doesn't want to. He doesn't have to capitulate to the Yankees, but show me the market. And I think what people are saying in the comments is, okay, well, he's going to wait. I don't see another deal in the market that is going to push Bellinger past what the Yankees have. No one else is talking to him right now. The Mets are engaged on Tucker on a short-term deal, so they won't go over 5 on Bellinger from what they're saying right now. They might not sign either of those people. And they definitely don't seem to want to go long-term on either of them. The Blue Jays want Tucker, but haven't been connected to Bellinger at all. If they don't get Tucker, they'll pivot to Bichette. Bellinger has not appeared in the Blue Jays sphere. The Dodgers want a short-term contract with Cody Bellinger. If Kyle Tucker signs elsewhere, they're not going to suddenly offer Cody Bellinger 7 years. And they don't offer Scott Boras clients anything at all. Usually, that's another reason why they were so quick to get rid of Cody Bellinger when they had the opportunity to after his tough years, when they said, this is a really tough arbitration decision and we're going to make it now. We're going to non-tender him. And that sucks. The Cubs did it to Kyle Schwarber too. Sometimes teams make mistakes in the non-tender process, but they wanted to get away from Bellinger before free agency. A reunion there would happen on a shorter term. So the Yankees have a bunch of short-term offers to worry about right now. I don't really understand, why as a Yankee fan am I so concerned with getting this wrapped up right now? Because I want to sign players to make the roster better. I'm concerned with the Yankees fielding a competitive lineup. I said earlier in the show, Cody Bellinger is not someone who I'm willing to die for.
Yeah,
right?
no.
He's not a must return to me. He's not Juan Soto, who was a must return. When they didn't get Juan Soto, they had to pick up generational pieces. They had to pull off a Cody Bellinger trade. We're only talking about Cody Bellinger this offseason because they couldn't handle Juan Soto's free agency. But why, as a Yankee fan, am I concerned with getting this wrapped up? I mean, are you a Yankee fan in the comments? Why am I concerned? Because I want the Yankees to sign and acquire good players. Because I want the Yankees to have a strong lineup. Because the Yankees aren't connected to any other free agent offensive players in the market. Because the 2027 class of offensive free agents is terrible. Like was mentioned earlier, Yandy Diaz, Ryan Mountcastle, Andrew Vaughn, Nico Horner, who I like, but he's not a power threat. He's not an outfielder. Brandon Lau, Jonathan India, Max Muncy, Ha-Sung Kim, Anthony Rendon is listed in that class. I don't think he's going to make it. Why am I concerned with this getting wrapped up? I host a podcast about the Yankees who haven't made a transaction all offseason.
And it's the most disengaged we've been in 20 years. This is the most boring offseason and most uninspiring offseason you could possibly dream up after your division rival just came within one game of winning the World Series and that division rival beat you on the way to going to the World Series.
My preoccupation is not more important than Cody Bellinger getting the right deal done. I don't know what could happen over the next month and a half that would raise the offers Cody Bellinger is receiving. That's what I'm saying. And if the chat can tell me what is going to raise the offers that Cody Bellinger is receiving, describe to me how Kyle Tucker signing will do that based on the teams interested in both players and the parameters of the contracts that are supposedly being offered to both players. Explain it to me.
Yeah, there is the fact of the matter is that there are plenty of the top free agent names are still out there. Alex Bregman's still out there. Kyle Tucker is still out there. And those are players that are above Cody Bellinger in the pecking order. And Scott Boras is positioning this offseason to wait for either of those guys to sign. So he can get, I know he represents Boras. He's more so waiting for Tucker to sign so they can get a clear roadmap of what Bellinger will go for. So that's also part of the problem. But at this rate, Cody Bellinger's number is not going above what he initially asked for. It'll be below that. And I know that Pete Alonso and Kyle Schwarber both got 5 years at their age, but they're a different breed. They hit 40 plus home runs a year. That's an investment that a team can make and stand by in year 5 and be like, all right, if he hits 18 homers, like, that's not too bad. And that's just the math of the game. Cody Bellinger's defense is going to decline. His power is going to decline because he's not a pure power hitter. And you'd have to suspect his contact will decline a little bit because that's just what happens as you age. So he doesn't really have a profile that is conducive to being a 35-year-old in Major League Baseball. Maybe we're wrong about that. But you look at somebody like Kyle Schwarber, who's only been DHing, and Pete Alonso, who is a future DH. That gives them the ability to take them off their feet on the defensive end, preserve them a little bit more into their mid to late 30s, and you could still get value out of the deal. Cody Bellinger on an 8-year deal makes no sense for anybody. Anybody entering their age 30 or 31 season in a 7 or 8 year deal, more times than not, makes no sense. And the player has to be absolutely spectacular for you to grapple with that. You say, okay, well, we'll get 4 really fucking good years and hopefully we win a World Series or 2. But beyond that, like, the rest of this deal is going to suck. So then we have to figure out how to get out of it. Do we defer some of this money so the the payroll hit isn't as much. Do we give a signing bonus in the beginning? So then we feel like we're paying for the first 3 to 4 years. So it feels like that's where the investment's going. And then the rest of this, we just let it wither away. But yeah, there's no urgency. The urgency for the Yankees was 2 months ago. That's what we've been saying. If they wanted to make their move and they wanted to go get the players that they wanted to, they should have set the market on either front, free agent market or trade market. They didn't do that. So now they're waiting, and they have no choice but to wait unless they want to go back on their word and then make an even dumber decision on January 8th to give in to Cody Bellinger's demands from 2 months ago. It just doesn't make any sense. So the problem here is the Yankees do not get aggressive with players they want. They wait for the market to tell them what they are going to do, and then we are all at the mercy of waiting. But it's extra disheartening because this is I don't think they've ever had this. Fans are legitimately tuning out. Like, you see the conversation on social media. Fans do not care.
And they waited long enough, like whatever. They're going to have to wait for even longer. You know, people in the comments, you want Cody to capitulate. I get it. No, I think Cody Bellinger lost this negotiation. I don't think he's getting 8 years, no matter how long.
No one is giving him 8 years.
I think he lost the negotiation. So I don't want him to capitulate. I want him to acknowledge that. But that said, we're going to keep waiting. This isn't over. And like you said, fans are tuned out in part because this is dragging. And in part because they know that there are not offers out there. If there was an 8-year or 7-year offer out there, he would have taken it because the Yankees aren't going that high.
And yes, they should walk away from the deal because Cody Bellinger returning doesn't make them better.
Yeah,
it makes them the same. So again, if you're bringing in Cody Bellinger, that's great. There needs to be another 2 or 3 moves that come immediately after that.
That's why people are tuned out, because we have waited so long that the bullpen has evaporated. There were bullpen options that the Yankees could have spent money. If you're not going to sign Cody Bellinger, you're going to save $30 million this offseason. Okay, fine. But we can no longer sign Robert Suarez. We can no longer sign Sean Armstrong. We can no longer sign the options that were available.
Yeah.
The $8 to $12 million options that were available to flesh out and thicken out the bullpen. They're gone already. That's why we're frustrated and tuning out.
Yeah. And then at that point, if you miss on all of those affordable, attainable, or you have the opportunity to set the market targets, and then you're left with, oh, guess we can overpay for the same roster we had last year that wasn't good enough and won't be good enough in 2026 because of all the other uncertainties, then you just sit and wait it out. So this is a lesson in, again, the Yankees not doing business correctly or not doing business aggressively enough to put themselves in a favorable position. And yeah, I mean, what are these Soto comments? Everyone's talking about $760 million. Regardless of what happened with Juan Soto, here's the deal. The Yankees didn't offer enough.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Scott Boras held the negotiations. He did it in a way that I think obviously benefited Steve Cohen because it allowed Steve Cohen to get the player that he wanted and overbid and overbid and overbid. And the Yankees probably never imagined it was going to get that high. But at the end of the day, there are 2 teams, the Yankees and the Dodgers, the Mets and the Dodgers, who are willing to make what you might deem a stupid decision in terms of investing in somebody. The Yankees are not going to do that. They might make a mistake investment. They might accidentally pay DJ LeMahieu $90 million over 6 years because they don't want to be luxury tax offenders. They might extend Aaron Hicks because they think it's a market-friendly deal for a center fielder, but they're not going out there and saying, oh, Edwin Diaz, come on down, $25 million. They're not doing that. They never do that. They wouldn't even do it with Aaron Judge. They didn't do it with the best player on the planet. So why are they going to do it with Cody Bellinger? Why are they going to do it with Kyle Tucker? Why would they even dream of doing it with Alex Bregman? They're just not. So that's the tough reality of it is like, am I glad the Yankees didn't get Juan Soto? I mean, no, I would love Juan Soto on my team, but you have to know where that would have put the Yankees. The Yankees would have needed to have won a World Series last year or this year to make it worthwhile, or else they would have had no financial flexibility for the next 10 years. They would have been paying Aaron Judge and Juan Soto $100 million, just them. And then you have Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon and Max Fried for the next 3 years. That's $200 million. So you're paying 5 players $200 million, and their payroll mark is $300 million. You need to fill out a roster of another 21 players with that. So, yeah, the Yankees don't operate the way that they should, and now it leads to conversations like this, and this is why they're not great.
Yeah, Juan Soto, again, the amount of money they would have had to pay to secure him is absurd. I am not saying they should have or shouldn't have. We're just saying they didn't, in terms of take care of business, they didn't handle it. They didn't bid the highest. It was really important to secure him long term, and then the price went to a crazy place, and they didn't do it. It is what it is. There was an incredibly high threshold that they had to pay to secure Juan Soto, and they decided not to do it. But that did set into motion the reality that, okay, you don't have that position locked down with a 26-year-old, not even maybe in his prime superstar, guy still entering his prime over the next 10, 15 years. Then you have to consider acquiring Cody Bellinger, long-term deal for Cody Bellinger. Like the short-term acquisition cost, the price of last year, what it means to pay that person long-term, wouldn't have had to do any of that if you had Juan Soto on your roster. That's all we're saying. Losing Juan Soto, whether you wanted to keep him long-term or not, set a lot of these things in motion. And the comments are now, I think, just mean. We haven't even been addressing these comments for a very long time. But apparently we're offended. We're soft, and it is what it is. Look, I'm not saying that Cody Bellinger needs to bend the knee to the Yankees now and take this second offer. And there's a lot going on behind the scenes. They are definitely exchanging more than what is publicly known. Right? We know 2 offers. We found out in the article that came out just before this podcast that they've been going back and forth. So Bellinger's camp and Scott Boras, they are sending things back to the Yankees. The Yankees are amending their proposal, etc. The idea that we wouldn't be frustrated by how slow this process is, that's what's confusing me. Of course we're frustrated by how slow this process is, because I don't see additional leverage on Cody Bellinger's side. I don't see anything ahead of him that can change the process. I think he has all the information he has and all the information he's going to get, but it's still dragging. That's what's frustrating. I'm prepared to keep waiting. I think the Yankees are playing this correctly, but my God, it has led to some deeply annoying reporting, writing, Twitter scrolling.
Yeah. I mean, they could have done themselves any sort of favor by making any other move instead of saying, oh, well, we're fine with what we got, and then we'll just wait it out for months with Cody Bellinger. No, they could have went out and traded for, and they could have traded for a reliever. I think that would have gotten people excited. They could have went out and traded for a number 4 starter. I think that would have got people excited. They could have went out and traded for a platoon third baseman, and we would have said, oh man, that's good. There were a million things that they could have done that were well within the constraints of whatever they had determined their 2026 payroll, and they didn't, because again, they're content with what they have. They don't want to have to rock the boat. They don't want to have to make too many moves. They don't want to upset the roster apple cart, even though we're hearing these dumb things about potentially, reapportioning Jazz Chisholm and Ryan McMahon. I don't think that's happening, but yeah, this is all the Yankees' fault. And today is the deadline to avoid arbitration with your arbitration eligible players. Right now, the Yankees have agreed to. The Yankees have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players left. They agreed with Oswaldo back in November, $1.2 million. They agreed with Clark Schmidt back in November for $4.5 million, and they just agreed with Camilo Doval this afternoon for $6.1 million. Absolutely insane. So who's left? Jazz, David Bednar, Luis Gil, Jake Bird, Fernando Cruz, Anthony Volpe, Jose Caballero. Another reason why the Yankees have waited to make moves this offseason is because all of those guys are probably going to get above their arbitration projections. Why? Jazz Chisholm just had a career season, and his entire time with the Yankees, if you cut the stats for a full 162-game campaign, is absolutely incredible. So I would suspect he makes more than the $10 million projected. David Bednar has been unbelievable. He's projected at $9 million. I could see that going higher. Luis Gil won Rookie of the Year and then came back. I know he won Rookie of the Year in 2024, came back this year and ended up being serviceable. I think he'll still be, his price isn't going to go up, but it's still going to be somewhat sizable. Jake Bird will be nothing. Fernando Cruz's numbers going up because he had a really good, I think he had a really good relief campaign for the Yankees and proved to be valuable. Jose Caballero's numbers going up in his second year of arbitration, or I think this is first year.
You were just listing so many bullpen pieces that do not give me faith in the unit. And wow, like the comment earlier, I feel like the comments keep coming by, and I agree with them to varying degrees in terms of like the Yankees needing more diversity in their lineup and just the Bellinger not being enough. 100% agree. The Yankees starting from scratch and do a rebuild on the fly and plan for 2028. Like they probably should, but the Aaron Judge age thing just makes it so dicey. I wish I could 100% endorse that, but I 2/3 thumbs up it. The comment that said the bullpen is good, that I can't even fathom it. Like Devin Williams was so iffy until he wasn't, until he was somehow our most trusted reliever in September and October. Luke Weaver, not someone I wanted to bring back, but you're talking about losing those two guys, replacing them with absolutely no one. Camilo Doval is now your second best reliever. Terrifying. David Bednar is someone I trust. I love and trust. But, you know, there's one reliever of the bullpen right now who I want to see with a lead in the 8th or 9th inning. One.
Yeah. And I don't think you guys know how arbitration works, clearly by the Fernando Cruz comment. Doesn't matter how old he is. Doesn't matter if he's in his first year of arbitration eligibility. He's going to be making at least $1 million more than he was making last offseason. I mean, that's just how it works. It has nothing to do with his age. It has nothing to do with anything. He had his best career season with the Yankees this year. That factors into the arbitration settlement. That's going to get him paid. And then guess what? Anthony Volpe projected to make $4 million. So good luck with that. $4 million for one of the worst or arguably the worst everyday player in Major League Baseball.
He's going to have one of his most effective Aprils ever by not playing. You're all going to miss him because he's not going to be there. Is Anthony Volpe kind of underrated?
Could be. Is Anthony Volpe better than nobody at shortstop? Let's talk about it.
Man, the offseason is so frustrating. I mean, look, I like Fernando Cruz. I like Brent Hedger.
Fine bullpen piece.
There are some fine bullpen pieces. There are 6th and 7th inning guys to an extent. There's no one I trust to be the bridge to Bednar. If for whatever reason you lose Bednar, which we all know how pitchers work. Like it's the diciest. It is the diciest it's ever been. And I don't believe Jake Bird is nothing to me right now. I hate looking at the bullpen, but I just hate it. Tim Hill, I love. Tim Hill's a specialist. Fernando Cruz, I love. Fernando Cruz, a one-pitch pitcher. Doval, interesting, needs to be unlocked. Bednar, like the only guy I fully trust.
Yeah, it's bad. It's a really bad situation. And again, the Yankees are just hoping that some of the things turn around. It's a lot like what the Giants are doing. The Giants just hope. Who was the writer who did that thing? Dan something. He's the Athletic Giants writer.
Oh, Dan Duggan just scored.
Dan Duggan. Yeah. Great analogy, saying that the Giants are consistently looking for a gut shot straight on a poker board. And which the odds are like 7% of that happening when you're actually in playing a poker hand, and then they're shocked when the card doesn't come out, and it's the least likely card you could possibly get. And that's what the Yankees do. The Yankees look at year-over-year production and they say, oh, well, this guy should rebound next year, but we have no evidence that he will. Or, oh, this guy should improve year over year, but there's no evidence that he should. And this is where we're at. So, I mean, look, if you're excited about this bullpen, Darren Stauber, that's great. I'm glad you feel that way.
Jake Bird might be my least favorite addition the Yankees have ever made.
Hill is solid. Yeah. Hill is solid.
Based on the acquisition cost and what we saw last. I understand. Like the XFIP and the XERA is always in the mid-4s with Jake Bird. Like, I mean, Jake Bird have to do so much work to get Jake Bird right. It's not just like imminently unlockable.
Jake Bird's a sleeper in a sense that he is literally sleeping.
Name a Yankees fan who was upset when the Bird trade was announced. Let me pull up my 2025 trade deadline grades. Sir,
I mean, yeah, they traded a top 10 prospect for
Rock Riggio for Jake Bird for all those years of control. I gave him a C. I said, quote, easily the grade likeliest to age poorly, and I understand that, but Bird will need to be overhauled by Matt Blake's pitching lab to have value. He comes with the years of control that the Yankees love to covet, but the team needs bullpen help now. He has a 1.481 whip, 4.50 plus ERA for the third time in his 4-year career, and just imploded in Cleveland in his final outing before the deadline. His four-seamer doesn't work. His big breaking ball is his calling card. It's hard not to feel like Scott Efros. His first 3 outings with the Yankees were abominable. He got demoted. He was abominable at AAA.
He had an 8.62 ERA at AAA.
I hope they can figure it out. But we're talking about, again, a complete Matt Blake overhaul being necessary. Not, hey, emphasize this pitch, de-emphasize this. So much more work is necessary. And last year they tried to do it on the fly, and it was so terrifying a proposition that they said, we actually have to demote this guy rather than have him take up a major league roster spot right now. And I haven't seen him this offseason. I'm eagerly anticipating what he looks like, but the expected stats, the actual surface stats, all of it screams mid-4s ERA reliever with a tantalizing breaking ball.
And Riggio isn't blocked. Jazz Chisholm's a free agent after this year. Where's Riggio blocked? There was a clear path for him. And the Yankees have the Yankees have no interest apparently right now in extending Jazz Chisholm. So I don't know. Again,
one of our least prospects.
Bless you for your optimism. I don't know who else the Yankees can trade with. Again, don't forget, nobody wants to make the Yankees better.
No.
So this is where they fall when they're not aggressive enough to make their own moves and create their own destiny. They are at the mercy of another team sitting there saying, am I going to make the Yankees better and make them a World Series contender? I don't think so. I don't want to do that. And they don't do it.
People hate us.
Yeah.
That's why I always laugh when people accuse outlets of pro Yankees bias. Like, if you didn't grow up a Yankee fan, which like people definitely did at the comment section, I think you're all Yankee fans. Thomas and I are. But if you didn't grow up a Yankee fan, you hate us.
Yeah.
You hate us. That's the whole baseball is built on hating the Yankees. So unless you're a GM who grew up a Yankees fan, there's a part of you that's like, man, I hate the Yankees. I've been dealing with Brian Cashman for 15 years. I hate that dude. I'm so tired of this. It's one of the arguments for a new voice. At the very least, they don't have to be dealing with Brian Cashman, someone who runs the evil empire, who they already don't like dealing with. Like, there's a Yankees tax. And so, like, is there bias towards the Yankees in media? The media wants the Yankees to make the World Series and lose, or play the Red Sox in the playoffs and lose. I'm pretty convinced and confident on that. They love it when the New York market is in the spotlight. And then they love it when somebody beats the Yankees so that they get to run Yankees defeat montages and talk to the conquering heroes. And they get the New York eyeballs. And then at the end of it, they don't have to sit through Yankees win because they don't like us unless they love us. Some people love us. Very few of them, though. Most people hate us.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else anybody's watching or listening, but that'll be it for today, I think.
I think so.
I think that's it for today.
We appreciate everybody joining us. I mean, truly, no better comment section in, like, other than the noise complaints I'm about to receive because of all the agitation about how slow this offseason is moving and how even if it starts moving faster, it's still not good enough, are worth it for hanging out with all y'all. So we appreciate the comment section, the people who watch and listen to this after it's live on your favorite podcast platforms or on YouTube. Mash that like button. I think the Yankees aura is mostly gone, but I still think a lot of people running teams despise us, quite frankly. But hopefully we have something to talk about next week. We'll see you Monday. We're here every Monday, Thursday at 2:00 Eastern time. Will we have a move by next Monday? I don't think we will.
We've said that every episode and we haven't had a move. So
this is crazy to say. I don't think we will. The New York Yankees have added 2 people who weren't here last year, and neither of them merited more than 6 minutes of podcast discussion. Paul DeYoung and Cade Winquist. They didn't get their own episodes. So I like Cade Winquist. I forgot about him. He has to be in the bullpen or else we have to give him back. So we'll see what that's like. But Paul Blackburn, Ryan Yarbrough, these are your moves. These are your Yankees. And I'm Adam Weiner. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weiner if you want me to continue the conversation. Thomas Carinante, where can the people find you?
At Tommy's_takes. We are both at the official Yanks Go Yard account. That's at Yanks Go Yard FS. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Very easy stuff if you could do us a solid. And head on over to yanksgoyard.com. That's where us and our team of writers are producing all of the content you are going to need to know about the Yankees this offseason, throughout the year, so on and so forth. Thanks again, everybody. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday.
Yeah, and 2004 was worse than the 80s to our commenter. 2004 was the worst thing to ever happen to any team in professional baseball history, except for maybe the way the Blue Jays lost the World Series last year in Game 7. But they're pretty close. Those are the 2 worst things to ever happen. So yeah, maybe we're on the right track now. Maybe we're not. Let's overpay for Cody Bellinger. Let's ignore Bo Bichette. Let's have ourselves an offseason. We'll see you next week.